her father. And hold on a minute. Is that you sending that, Oona?
Sending what?
This thing you sent to a third party?
It's me recording to YouTube.
Okay, great. Okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
That's one I haven't seen before. I thought I saw everything on Zoom. So anyway, we were talking about this one night. We were talking about her father, and you're actually your father, your grandfather, your mother. Really interesting stuff. And you hadn't really talked to your father that much, right? I think it was, I don't know how long it had been, a while, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we had this amazing conversation, and the next morning I'm outside meditating, and Oona comes out and she says, "You are not going to believe this. I guess in the middle of the night, your father called you."
Yes, like out of the blue, and I hadn't
Out of the blue.
spoken to him for probably 4 years. There were the emails once in a while, but basically, you know, things had just cooled off a little bit as they do. Nothing drastic, just not much connection, and then you start talking about it, and you go really deep, and you feel the emotions and all of that, and all of a sudden coincidences happen, and the people feel it, and that's how much we are connected through frequency and through quantum entanglement. This idea that there's no distance.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of stuff happens incredibly all the time. Just amazing. And it is this amazing frequency connection. When you consider that every single thing is frequency and everything is connected, everything you think and say and do, that's why if you think of somebody, it's like sending an email. I mean, it's like sending a frequency email. It goes right to them.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like sending an email. Yes, and we were just talking about that today, weren't we? About how to, telepathy has come up for us quite a bit.
It has.
And it's, I was wondering why, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s of the last century, there was an awful lot of hands-on contact. And you think of, what are their names? There's Billy Meyer, there's George Adamski, there's George Van Tassel, there's Howard Menger, and they all kept on being contacted physically and even had rides in the spaceships. Now, I've also had physical contact, but it was such that it was maybe 300 meters away.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very physical, but why is there not that intense contact anymore? And one of the reasons, I think, I mean, we all know the reason where they say that it's too dangerous for them to come because of all the war-like instruments we have. But I'm thinking also that maybe we have evolved so far that it is actually possible for us to do telepathy. Maybe that's just the next stage. And I'm feeling it for myself as I listen to these audiobooks of these people having these experiences. And you, Pat, you told me today about, wasn't today, a few days back.
Yeah, it was this morning. Oh, yeah, we talked about the telepathy of the phones, I mean.
Well, the one in the church. Do you want to share that experience?
The one in the what now?
In the church. Not your experience, but it was, you heard that on Audible. It was in one of the books. It was in Val Thor, where the girl was in church and a couple came in and sat down in front of her. Do you remember?
I do not remember which book you're talking about. I mean, if you go a little further, I may know which one. I've read so many books in the last 2 weeks, I can't tell you.
So you were telling me this little girl was sitting there in church and a couple came in and they were kind of odd and kind of strange, but nobody was really noticing them except for this little girl. And these two people sat down in front of her and they were not talking to each other. And they didn't really know what to do in church, when to stand and when to kneel and when to, all these things that people usually knew in church. And the little girl suddenly heard in her head how these two people were talking to each other. And one of them said to the other something along the lines, nobody can hear us. The other person said, do you remember now?
No, I don't think you heard this from me.
Really?
No.
Okay.
No, I would remember this one. Yeah.
I would think so, yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, I can't remember the source in that case. The little girl, the other person of this couple said, except for the little girl that's sitting behind us. And then it went blank. She couldn't hear anything anymore. So there's something where you can turn off the telepathy so that not everybody can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as church was over, these two people very quickly went out, and the little girl ran out behind them, although the mother was saying, please stop, please, come on here, don't run away. And she went out, and these two people didn't go to the road, didn't go to the parking lot or to a car. They went towards the woods, and they disappeared in the woods. So
no, I would remember that one.
Oh, all right.
I remember that one.
Told me.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised at all. The book that, this is coming up constantly in two different books. When Paula Harris was on, we talked about Howard Menger's book, and I'd never read that, right? From Outer Space to You was the name of it. And she said, Pat, you've got to read this book. It's an amazing, I can't believe you haven't read it. And I started reading and I realized, okay, this is the same time frame as George Adamski and all these other men, right? Same time frame. And what was fascinating about it is, they were talking about places that I grew up. They actually were meeting ETs in Easton, Pennsylvania, where I literally grew up, in the circle. I'm thinking, wow, I know that place. And then B. Secker's Diner, which I ate at with my parents. I can't tell you how many times. It's up in the Poconos. So there were all these little clues, but what they were talking about at one point was how amazing it was that we think we're going forwards and actually we're going backwards. That this thing of phones, we all have these phones that get ever more complicated and ever more expensive, right? And we think, oh my gosh, I've got to get the iPhone 15 because it has this better camera or whatever. And he said, really, you're doing all this when, had you developed telepathy, you wouldn't need the phones at all.
Yeah.
And had you developed teleportation, you wouldn't need all the cars that you have and all the transportation devices. And I really started thinking about that. And I thought, I've always been a proponent for organic development of cities and these abilities. But it really, you and I talked about this, and I said, I think we have to rethink this. I think if you're really doing some of this work to raise your consciousness and raise your frequency, I actually think that you need to start working on things like telepathy, maybe. Obviously people can remote view. That's a pretty easy one. Telepathy is not quite as easy. And I could not understand what we're doing wrong with telepathy, right? Mm-hmm. And then today, I'm listening to a book I've listened to before, and I don't know how I missed this whole part of it. It's called Two Men of Earth by Daniel Fry. And this was a man who also had a lot of contact, right? And in there, they're talking about how telepathy works. He said, you on Earth call it ESP, extra sensory perception. And he said, there's nothing extra about it. He said, you actually have that capability within your senses already. You just haven't developed it. And he said, you really need to, people get into a thing where they have to really think really hard. And they think if they're thinking really hard, they'll be able to telepathically, because they were going to send him some schematics. They were going to telepathically send him a picture so that he could see the propulsion of these crafts. And they said, in order to receive the information, you have to have no thought. He said, you will have to get to the point of no thought, quiet mind, no thought. He said, people make the mistake of thinking really hard to hear. He said, thinking is the transmission part of telepathy, not the receiving part. The receiving part is quiet mind. And I'm like, oh my God, how did I miss that the first 100 times? I don't know. Isn't that something though? Yeah.
Pat, you do hear. I mean, right from when we first met, Pat and I met first at an expedition with Dr. Greer, and you had auditory information come in back then.
Yeah.
And even before that, Pat.
Yeah,
even
I have.
Before that, you had auditory information. Yeah.
We've talked about this so many times, Oona, you and I, and on these other calls. When you hear these voices that talk to you, or you're waking up, when you're first waking up, I mean, I would bet that just almost everybody on this call has had that happen, right? You're first waking up and you hear somebody call your name, or you hear somebody talk, or you're about to fall asleep and you hear a voice, right? And I've always been sort of, like I'll hear somebody say, Pat, and I'm like, yes. And then I'm listening. And I'm like really concentrating to hear, can I hear it again? And actually, this is really kind of explaining to me that what's happening in those times is those are times of no thought, right? You're first waking up, you don't really have any thoughts yet. You're going to sleep, you don't really have any thoughts yet. Or you're in a very deep meditation, you don't have any thoughts, right? Yeah. And that is when we hear these things. The question is then, how do we get to the point where we can then answer and then again go to no thought so we can hear maybe another reply? I don't know. That's something that's going to have to be worked on, because, I sat here the other day meditating here in the office, just taking a few minutes to meditate. And I was tired and I was I've almost like half nodded off. And in that moment, I heard this voice clearly said, "Hi, Patty." And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's got to be one of my relatives, because nobody calls me Patty. Nobody calls me Patty except relatives, right? Since I was a kid. And I thought, thinking back to these things, we have to find a way maybe to, how does this telepathy work? How do we then engage in a conversation? And how do we practice it? How do we practice it? I think in Menger's book, he talks about you have to almost envision yourself coming together with the person that you're wanting to telepathically communicate with, outside of, almost in a separate space and time. Imagine that you two are meeting in, I don't know, someplace, right? Maybe in space or something. And you are deciding to communicate with each other. I haven't tried that yet. So I would love to. Wouldn't it be great if there was a school that we could go to learn telepathy? I mean, this would be great.
Yeah, well, maybe not a school. Maybe we'll figure it out, all of us together here.
We might. And, in that book, he was talking about when human beings and other life forms are first beginning to grow their consciousness, that part of their brain that can do telepathy is turned off, so that they can develop using their thoughts in a private way, because people need to think about things. You need to learn. This is why when we talk about, learning to monitor your thoughts, that's quite the process, because I don't know about you guys, but every day I have these thoughts that if anybody was listening and be like, okay, let's delete that. Delete that one.
Yep. Delete.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd have to delete a bunch of them. Yeah.
There's also in the Howard Manger book, it talks about how when we talk through the phone or through the computer, the intention comes into our brain, and our brain really works in an electrical way. And then we change it into sound waves through speaking it. Then it goes back into electronics, and then it goes through the air, through, I don't know, the next person receives it, and then it gets transferred back into sound waves and then back into electrical waves so that our brain can comprehend it. But we could actually do this directly. Electricity with the electrical energy of our brain directly to the electrical energy of the other person's brain.
Yeah. We have to figure out how to do that. I think it's important.
Yes.
I think it would help.
Yes, because there's different kinds of energies, and as in my world, and how I see things is up here, this is very electrical blue energy. We also have the blue spectrum of chakras up here. And then we have the heart chakra, which is a pretty much magnetic energy. And then, of course, we have the physical energy of the first one or two chakras. And that's very hot, red, like the sun. It's more like nuclear energy. And of course, we need to weave all of that together. But if we focus on this being electrical energy and sparks flying from my head to yours, that might be a way of doing it.
Yeah, might be. I was going to see if Mary was on here. This was very interesting last night. Mary and I had been talking about this telepathy. And I said, I was trying to figure out, I wonder how you could work on that, right? Because like, okay, so this morning, very early this morning, I wake up and I'm kind of deciding, okay, do I want to just meditate right away or wait a little bit? And I kind of just sit laying there, and literally I heard Mary's voice. She said, Pat. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's Mary's voice. And I, other than just picking up the phone at 7:00 in the morning or 6:30 and saying, Mary, did you just send me a message? I mean, honestly, how would you know, right? I mean, how would you check this out? How could you verify it? Really? Yeah, there's got to be a way.
Yeah. Oh, I just wanted also to mention that there's a few people who have an exception for not putting their videos on, but we do want to know who you are and get a smile. We love smiles. So if you could just briefly show that you're there, that you're human. Very important these days. Yeah. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Thank
you, Frank.
Many of these I do know. Karen.
Everyone.
Yeah. Hey, Karen.
Yeah.
I do know Charlene. I know Jack. Most of these, honestly, this is really fun to see so many people that I knew that were on all of our Zoom calls. It's amazing. Yeah. I miss you guys.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great to see everybody.
Yes, Charlene, you're in a car.
Yeah, thank you for, I know, Charlene, you had reached out and said so many people were really like, where can we go to find, information on consciousness and continue this? And I'm very serious when I say this. This is not hubris, but I will tell you that I have scanned, YouTubes and books and videos, and I have come to find that not a lot of people really understand this science of consciousness. There's a lot of disinformation out there. There's less disinformation and more misinformation, right? Disinformation I would consider to be something that was done on purpose. And misinformation is really people just don't understand this, and it's just never really been studied. And so, there are not a lot of places to go for this. And that is, hopefully that gets fixed, in this civilization, because this is, to me, seriously the most important thing we should work on, because it is what connects all of us. This is just really, Oona, you and I have talked about this. There are moments where I'm like, is this actually a simulation? I'm really just not sure, right? I mean, things start to happen where you're like, wait a minute, how did that just happen? And you really, you have to really start to understand how consciousness works. and how this field that everyone is connected in, how that works. I am so visual that I want to see what it looks like. I want to visualize the thing. And where in the world would you ever go to find something like that, right?
Yes, and it's,
No.
this we use this word understand or comprehend, and that's very much, we tend to think of that as thinking.
Yeah.
And that happens inside the brain. But when we expand the brain, when we externalize, when we think, word think is not really very good, but we don't have a word for that. If we are in the consciousness field with our thinking, words just don't work really well. But let's just imagine we're thinking with something that is far greater than this head. Then
it's sometimes hard to get there.
Well, that's where it's a matter of practice.
Oh, it is. It is. Absolutely.
It's and it's a matter of discipline, I guess, instead of scrolling and doing all sorts of things that aren't necessary.
Right.
Continuously going into it and even practicing doing that while you're driving. Charlene, I'm a bit worried. It's okay to turn the video off because I drive safely. There's a few people with their hands up. So
I'm just a passenger. I didn't know if I could unmute my car, so I haven't said anything, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I just, just to sort of, just because, I had asked Pat about this, and it really, is there any good teachers or schools that you guys kind of would recommend or that you guys know of? You know what I mean? Like the Monroe Institute is one, that's one that comes up a lot and that kind of thing. But
yeah, well, you've got to be careful. You've got to be careful. Yeah. Do you want to answer to that, Pat? Because the Monroe Institute is.
Yeah. Okay. So that comes up a lot, the Monroe Institute. And look, they do a lot of classes there, and there are a lot of people that teach there. And they teach, what they know and what they're good at, and they do a good job of it, right? They do. The problem with the Monroe Institute is that it was literally infiltrated years ago when it first started. And I have no reason to think that it isn't still. For a while, it was actually run by Skip Atwater, who was, CIA. So, so you really do have to be careful because I know everybody loves all the, the sound things and the binaural and all that kind of stuff. But I will tell you what I know about the weaponization of frequency. This I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. And, for years, people would go there and take classes. They would take remote viewing. These are all cities, right? All the classes that they're teaching there mostly are cities, or, we could just call them abilities, really. They're abilities that are outside of what most people have. And they, if you showed up there and you had an extremely high ability to be a remote viewer or to be a telepathic person or, a lucid dreamer or astral traveler or something, right? You could be tracked.
Yeah.
And because those are the things they look for. And so, I was going to go there. I was going to take a class and I was going to go there and do the whole thing. And I happened to go to a talk that some guy gave in Houston. This was years ago. And, I kind of stuck around at the end. I kind of asked him a couple questions and I said, yeah, I'm thinking about going to the Monroe Institute so I could maybe learn a little bit more about this. And he looked at me and he says, do not go there. He said, they will absolutely track you. He said, the last time I went, he said, it took me a while just to get all that tracking off. He said, it was on my phone. It was on my watch. I was like, oh my God. He said, yeah, they've got good technology there. So and the problem is that there are a lot of people teaching really incredible things there. Right. But knowing what I know, I just, it's everybody has to make up their own mind, and they're certainly welcome to go take classes wherever they want to. But that to me is more problematic.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing when this mind infiltration and mind control. It happens anytime there's high quality, and I've seen it in my life. My life. Let's see. I was taken into a lineage of Mayan healers. I worked for an Eskimo shaman for 7 years as his personal assistant. And at one point, I was teaching in St. Petersburg. And my experience there, I mean, it's a whole long story. I won't go into all of it. It included my iPhone being stolen and all sorts of things. But I, for the first time, realized what it feels like when you're being mind controlled. And I had no idea why me. It didn't make sense. I didn't feel like that important. I was teaching something on emotions. Every time I opened the door, there was somebody literally cleaning the door frame. So I realized I needed to learn more. But this is happening everywhere. And what I've learned is that you're better off staying in small groups, going to people where you know you can learn something and it's authentic. It's not organized. We are moving away from organizations. We talked about this too, Pat. And it's also, we know this from human design, those of you who have heard of human design, which I find fascinating. We are moving away from anything that's organized, anywhere where there's a contract, like nations and governments and medical institutions and school institutions. So going to a big facility, just be very, very careful, I would say.
Right. You know, somebody was talking a few minutes ago about, I would also say on the back of that, you know, I know that people are looking for information on consciousness, meditation, energy fields, how all this works, what everything is, right? But I will tell you from my own experience, and I am nothing special. Believe me, everybody on this call has just the same specialness that I have. Absolutely. You know, my way through this was to meditate and ask those questions. I mean, reach out in meditation and ask those questions and ask to be guided. Look, I want to learn about this. How do I learn about this? This is information that I'm looking for and information that I really want. And I will tell you, I got the information sometimes pretty instantly through a voice that literally said, okay, this is it. Sometimes being, you know, guided to a certain book, or I would be driving and see something. I'm like, oh my God, is that the answer? Holy cow. So I think you are also quite capable, every single one of you, of getting your answers yourself. I mean, you don't have to rely. You really do not have to rely on other people. You don't have to rely on an organization. You don't have to rely on a guru or, you know, a leader of something. You really are quite capable, every single one, of getting this information, asking for it, and you'll be guided to where you can get the answer, or you'll be given the answer. I mean, I've shared many times about how I've just literally right out of, you know, that whole thing on energy, I could not wrap my head around. You know, I kept saying, oh my gosh, how am I not getting this? You know, frequency. I don't get what you were talking about. Okay, everything's frequency, it's vibration, blah, blah. And I'm like so visual. I need to see this, or I need to understand it. And in a plane, totally frustrated, I finally put the book down and said, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to get it. I don't know. I don't know what it is. And then literally in meditation on the plane, this voice comes in and gives me this whole download that I'm quickly trying to say into my phone about frequency, vibration, density. Literally everything is at the same energy at its base. And I mean, that's how it happens. So everybody is capable of doing that. I don't think you have to go to an organization. Is it helpful to get into groups like this right here? This right here, this kind of thing right here to me is hugely important, because what it ends up being is it ends up being people sharing what they know. That's what this is. This is, I'm sharing what I know. Oona shares what she knows. There are other people on this call. Many of the calls that people shared what they knew. They shared their experiences. They shared what they'd found out. I learned as much on those calls as people learned from me. This kind of thing right here, almost like a round table, this is the important stuff, whether it's a handful of people meeting at lunch to talk about this, or getting on a phone call or getting on a Zoom call. It could be a few people. It could be 100 people. It could be 1,000 people. These are the kind of things that I think are critically important for this civilization, really. Critically
Yeah,
important.
and I'd say to start out, clear your environment, clear your relationships, clear your emotions, clear the stuff that you have, and then call in the situation. And we have to be sincere about it. If it's kind of jokingly or half-heartedly or
Right.
it's kind of wavy, then it doesn't work. It's got to be clear and sincere. Yeah.
It definitely does. That time I kept saying, I'm trying to remember what my question was on that time. When I meditate, often it is like prayer to me, meditation, prayer, same thing, just a different word for the same thing, really. I remember that I had been trying to understand what that divine energy was. And, I would think about it often. I would say, I wonder what that is. And I realized that I was doing that so half-heartedly, like you said, that, nobody would have taken me seriously, right? Nobody listening would have taken me seriously. And then one day I said, you know what, Pat, maybe you should ask with really serious intention. What is that? And I really do want to know. And I said, okay, I really want this information, and my intention is to literally get this information. I want to understand it. And that is when literally, it was within a few hours, this entire whole thing happened that absolutely blew me away. It said that the divine energy is a frequency. It is the frequency. It is the frequency of creation. I was like so blown away. I was like, huh. But the difference is how I asked.
Yeah. And there's a difference between willpower and intention. If it's willpower, I want this. That's a very different thing from intention, which comes from a consciousness field. An intention, it can just be just quick like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's precise, and it comes from outside the brain.
Yeah. Actually, they both appear to work pretty well. They do. Oona, you were just talking about this, also this field of consciousness, right? And how we access this.
Mm.
And, when I was on one of the CE5s with Dr. Greer in Arizona, I think it was Tucson, a couple of years ago. I had this amazing thing happen about, I was trying to figure out, okay, I was sitting in meditation, and I was trying to distill my consciousness down to what is the smallest particle, right? And in physics, they talk about, okay, so there's, quarks and string theory, and you get into these smaller and smaller. People talk about quantum, and everybody on here knows my whole, hot button about language, right? And everybody agreeing on the words that we're using, right? And when we talk about quantum, basically quantum is just really small. That's what that means, right? Small. And so I was sitting there and thinking, okay, how could you distill yourself down to the very essence of who you were, to the very essence of your consciousness, to that pinpoint essence? Because Dr. Greer had also talked about, becoming that small drop in the ocean, at which point you are indistinguishable from all other drops, right? And this gives you great protection as well. So I was thinking about that, and I was trying to get down to the smallest point, and the quantum, and then this little quark, and then maybe the string, and even smaller and smaller and smaller. And it literally, I was able to, in my consciousness, get down to where I was literally the essence of my consciousness, the absolute essence of what I am or who I am. And at that point, the whole picture in my brain changed, And it was as though I was in this vast ocean, and far off, I could see this whale. And the whale literally was upright. Not like we see a whale swimming like this, he was upright. And he was looking at me. I could see his eye, and his eye was it was such intelligence. And he was looking right at me, and he said, anything you do, I feel. Anything that you will do, I will feel. And I was like, oh my God. I was like totally blown away, like, oh my gosh. And that in a moment really kind of taught me that is how this works. Because even though we're here and we're doing all this big stuff and we're in these big bodies and we're, doing all these big thoughts and we're, that really is the essence of us. And on every level, that right there is happening. Every time you have a thought, every time you do something, you are literally moving something somewhere else in the universe or somewhere else on this planet. Why it's so critically important to, begin to monitor our thoughts and be mindful of what we do, what we think. That was a moment that I will never forget. And I will tell you that consciousness of that being looking at me was just a wow moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow moment.
Shall we take some questions, Pat?
Sure. Absolutely.
Comments? Yeah. I've got Steve here first. Steve Petchak.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, Pat. You hear me?
How are you? I can hear you well. How are you doing?
I've got a pinched nerve in my lower back that's kept me flat on my back for 9 days. And I'm working it out. I got an inversion table and I'm meditating and I'm praying and I'm doing the McKenzie method and you name it, I'm working on it. I got a background in kinesiology a little bit. So, I'll work it out. I don't like Western medicine, so I won't go there. But anyhow, this is a great conversation. And I kind of added a little chat memo in there asking if you'd ever heard of Harold Sherman, who started the ESP Institute in 1965 in Little Rock, Arkansas. I've read 11 of his books.
Wow.
And he wrote the first book, I think he wrote, was published in 1949 or 50, called Thoughts Through Space, where he and Sir Herbert Wilkins did an experiment. Wilkins was an explorer up in the Arctic, and Sherman was doing ESP. And so they did this experiment where they took notes and they had a third party that, Sherman would mail what he wrote down as impressions that he was receiving from Wilkins in the Arctic, and Sherman was in New York. And then they would write this stuff down and then send it to this professor. And then when the expedition was over, they compared notes and they hit on over 70%, which is unheard of in those kinds of experiments. So I was impressed, and after reading that book, and then I started reading all his other books, which are, like The Mystery of the Powers of ESP and how ESP can work for you, and TNT, The Power Within You, and The Key to Happiness, and stuff like that. But what I learned in reading his books, and I also learned this back in the 70s when I was practicing astral projection, was it was really important to relax in the physical body. So to actually lay down and go through a process of shaking it all out and allowing my muscles to relax, which also put me in a frame of mind of receptivity. So I like it, and so it's like our five senses get in our way, and a pretty quick access to the paranormal stuff that we want to develop has a lot to do, I think, with physical relaxation of the body. So I've been doing a lot of my meditation in a zero gravity chair lately. And all of a sudden, I'm having experiences that I used to struggle with. And now like you said, you fall out of bed and all of a sudden you're not thinking of anything and you're open and receptive and boom, there it is.
Oh,
So
yeah.
anyway, can you speak to that a little bit, Oona or Pat, about physical relaxation and kind of letting go of this attachment to the five senses in order to gain access to this other telepathic or teleportal activity that we're all trying to acquire?
Yeah. I can say a little bit about that, and then Una, you chime in. Steve, I think it's just as simple as what you just said. I when we talk about some of these things, sometimes we always kind of think, oh, there's going to be some kind of very technique and with different steps. And basically, I think in this, it's just exactly what you said. You lay down, you completely relax yourself completely. There is no there's no big, huge technique to this, right? You completely relax. I think that's what it is. Now, clearing your mind is a little bit different. Clearing your thoughts is a little bit different. I mean, for me, there are some things that I do to clear my thoughts and try to really think of nothing, try to literally be in that space of just a clean, clear, almost like a pond with nothing, literally no movement at all. But
Can I say something really quick
sure,
about
absolutely.
about that very thing? It's like my technique is that I recognize the thought process arising and I move back inside myself like a cave. I visualize a cave or a conclave or something I back into, and I tell myself I am becoming the witness to this event.
Oh,
And as soon as I do that, it all changes. I'm no longer a part of it. I'm witnessing consciousness in its present condition.
yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah, that's a good technique. Yeah, excellent. In the book I was just reading, Two Men of Earth, and it was written by a guy named Daniel Fry, who had quite a bit of contact with ETs. And when this being was talking to him, he said one of the reasons that we picked you is because you have the ability. He said you of most of the people we were looking at on this particular military base, he said, had the ability to clear your mind and use a specific technique that we found interesting. And the technique that this guy used was when he was going to sleep at night, he would picture that he was in a completely dark space, completely black. And he would see this number in white, like 10 in a huge, big number, right? And it would disappear, and then 9, and then that would disappear. And then he would see 8, and then that would disappear. And by the time he almost never got down to 1, because by that time he was usually asleep. And this being said, when you're doing that, you're completely clearing your mind, but you're also you're if I can say this correctly, I hope I get this right, but I'm paraphrasing here. He said all of the previous day's thoughts and things you're thinking on, they are like put in a file cabinet. Through this process of 10, 9, 8, you're being able to file away all those things to where you get to the end and you've cleared off all the thoughts of the day and you are in no thought. Now, I thought that was pretty interesting. I've never tried that. I can guarantee you I'm definitely trying that.
Oh, that's a great practice. I mean, I use a visualization of I'm flying an airplane. There's throttles for both engines, and I'm pulling the throttles back and powering down, so to speak. And I use that as an image sometimes. I actually learned that from my mother. That's how she could get dental surgery done without taking anesthesia.
Wow.
And she did that. She was a yoga teacher and a pretty amazing. She had her first TV yoga show in 1960 in Memphis, Tennessee. So,
Wow.
she did. I learned a lot of stuff from her. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I guess it's whatever method works. There's so many methods, and I could name a few, but I think we've already, between Steve and Pat, you've already got a choice of things to experiment with. And I would say, Pablo, would you like to unmute and share?
Yes. Hey guys.
Hey,
Oh
Pablo,
man.
how are you?
What's up, Pat? What's up, Oona? Oh man, this is it's a very loving sight to see the group, get back together. Still being in the Discord and seeing everyone's reactions after everything. People have been longing for another conversation with Pat on all her amazing wisdom with consciousness and love and everything. And so I just wanted to, put my faith in here and say we really appreciate you guys taking some time out of today to give us and give everyone what they have really missed, because for a lot of people in the Discord, this is like the most important thing for them, is having a community and a group of people to relate to and learn and people to talk to, because with these kind of subjects, it really is a lonely path at times. I'm only 24, and I try to talk to my buddies about this that I grew up with. Nobody cares. They're busy with their work and sports and just like materialistic things, and so not many people have the awareness and the I would say maybe the mindset to look into these spiritual things and just like really life things that really matter, like the underlying factor behind everything. So I don't necessarily have a question. I just wanted to give you guys some appreciation and tell you guys how much we really appreciate you guys.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Pablo.
thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Pablo.
very much, Pablo. Yes.
Of course. Yeah.
It's great to see you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Pablo is one of the
Oh,
moderators on Discord.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I recognize the name. Yeah.
I guess I'll say one thing maybe. I personally have been, my whole journey with this, which started about 2 years ago, it's been about learning and learning and learning and learning and reading all the books I can and trying to find all the knowledge and all the wisdom. And really, if it wasn't for Pat, I wouldn't have tried mediating all of this passion for knowledge with having a passion for developing love. I had recently heard something from a spiritual teacher. His name is Aaron Abke on Instagram and stuff. He said that if you don't incorporate love as like the foundation of your search for knowledge, well, then your search for knowledge might not lead you to the happiness you might be looking for. It could lead you to like, a lot of questions and suffering maybe. And so when he said that the other day, it kind of hit me hard, because I know for me and for a lot of people, it's about learning everything you can. And so when he said you need to make sure love is at the foundation of that and really understand what loving is, I was like, ooh, I need to maybe settle down on all the knowledge looking, all the book reading, and really in meditation, just love, and really feel love and express love. And then you could really apply all the knowledge you'll start learning in a better way.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's something I'd like to share with everyone, that, we're all knowledge seekers and stuff. So
Yeah, I consider it really to be the jet fuel for consciousness, honestly. Certainly is a jet fuel for meditation, truly.
absolutely. Yeah, you told me that, the best way to meditate, and if you're really like one of those people that want to develop all these cities of healing and clairvoyance, telepathy, whatever, it really doesn't happen just from, begging for that to happen. It happens as you develop more understandings on love. Like the more loving you get. We were talking about density. I don't know. It was like the fourth density. The more loving you get, the more you're aware of these cities and the more that they come to you. And I found that to be pretty cool. So
Mhm.
I've been trying to
Well-
really incorporate just love, 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 you know?
Well, we use the word love. It's really a frequency, really. That's
Yeah,
basically,
yeah.
I mean, that's the only word
It's-
that we actually have for that, but I think that word doesn't even come close to describing that true frequency, and that
The
is
highest
why it is,
frequency.
yeah. And that is, to me, it's so important to understand that frequency is what really continues to help to raise your consciousness. Really.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. These
So keep
other
that in the priorities.
civilizations, they know this, right? This is
Oh, yeah.
Oona, you and I talked about this. When I go through these books and I'm reading these books, and I've been reading, I don't know, tons of books. I've always read tons of books. Going way back, read, Dolores Cannon, Ralph Moody, I mean, Seth Material, blah, blah, blah. And the stuff I've been reading. Whenever there are avatars or ET beings or ones that are trying to help this civilization to evolve, some of those messages are absolutely timeless. They are the same message over and over again,
Yep.
from every source. And those messages are absolutely timeless. Love one another, treat others as you want to be treated, understand other people. I could go on, but literally, these are timeless messages. They've probably been given this, I don't know, probably what, millennia, going back millennia.
Well, the truth stays the same. Yeah.
Pure unconditional love.
Yeah, it's eternal and infinite, and as much as people might try, it always comes back to the truth, and
Yep.
it's the universal truth. It's not the human truth.
Yeah,
It's
those
the spiritual
universal,
truth. Yep.
right?
Yeah, it's
know?
the universal laws that are true, whether you like it or not, and whether you know of them or not. There's no raised finger, you should do this or you should do that. It's just, this is how it is.
Right. Those
Absolutely.
universal laws are the same, like same thing, really. Universal truth, universal laws. They are immutable. I don't care who you are, where you are, what planet you're on, what galaxy you live in, what part of the universe you're in. I mean, those universal laws are just exactly that.
Mhm.
Right.
For everybody.
So for anyone in here, I know we talk about the Christ letters a lot, but I think that those 9 letters explain that foundation of pure unconditional love. They explain it so well, better than anything I've read before. So shout out to Pat for
Yeah.
guiding me to that book not many years ago, but about 2 years ago. And it
Yeah.
was really life-changing.
Yeah, I know those things. There's so much truth that's been written out there. Um, some of it gets hidden, and you wonder, how it gets hidden or why. But I think it's pretty clear why. There's probably forces that would prefer that we don't evolve as quickly, but evolution is going to happen no matter what anybody tries to do. I mean, it will. I remember that. What was that line in Jurassic Park where he says something like "life finds a way," right? By the way, I still think that was one of the scariest movies I ever saw, and my kids always laugh at me like, "Oh, mom, that wasn't scary at all." I'm like, "Well, I don't know about anybody else. It scared the living crap out of me. I can tell you, really, very scary." But anyway, there's some truth in all of that. Look, life finds a way, the truth finds a way, and evolution finds a way.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Hey, thank you, Pablo. Good to meet you.
Yes, of course. Thank you guys. Nice to meet you too. Hope to see you again.
Okay, we'll take notes. Teresa.
Hey everybody. Oh, I got all lit up, Una, when I got the email announcing this. I'm just so thrilled to be able to see everybody, and I'm taking one of Una's courses right now. And if you ever get a chance to work with her, I can highly recommend it. I can see why Pat highly recommends it. So, and of course, this topic is right up my alley. Pat, thank you for mentioning what you did about the Monroe Institute. You've been the only other person I know, me and one other person, and now you, that knows about the tracking that they do there. I didn't realize that when I went there just over 20 years ago to Faber, Virginia, you know, the Nancy
Mhm.
Penn Center, and I did a week-long program there. And there I am, you know, it's all these Army, CIA people taking the program, of Russian neuroscientists and physicists and things. And I kind of felt like I stuck out a little bit. But you think I would have known what that meant? No, not at the time. There was some beautiful, excellent experiences I had there. You know, meeting Penny, you know, Monroe's granddaughter, meeting Skip and Joseph McMonigal and all them. But and Joseph, I remember he said when he does his remote viewing, he drops his brain waves down to almost zero. That's how low the frequency he gets his brains in. And if you walk up the road and you go up there where they have another site that's more connected with the Star Nations, that's got a really, really interesting energetic that's very different from down there at the Nancy Penn Center. I mentioned I did this training to somebody and they said, yeah, they track you, but it's not just like in a watch or whatever. It's something that's implanted in your field. Maybe it's anchored by a watch, but it's in your field and it tracks. But also the main purpose of it, I found out, was to like dampen your ability to do remote viewing or whatever. And I didn't go there to learn remote viewing. I was there in their basic intro course.
Mhm.
And so we got that cleared out, and that really changed things. That's how long it stuck with me, right? And then I took David Morehouse's remote viewing program, and of course that's all CIA spawned as well, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know how I started to learn telepathy was plant and animal communication. It's not like a regular like clairvoyance or clairaudience. It is a very different thing. And so if anyone is interested in, you know, making a little few steps in that direction, that might be a suggestion there, you know, and tapping into the heart. Pat, I have a question. When you did that, you know, going deeper and deeper and deeper within, and you got there, and then you had that beautiful whale blessing. When you were deep within, did you sense a deep, profound inner stillness?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah. It was almost like nothingness, you know.
nothingness. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. Because that's, you
Yeah.
know, that's your first dimensional I am presence. That is your essence and who you are, right? You
Right.
know, and if you develop that more, at least for me, in this reality map of 12 dimensions of consciousness, it's in the sixth dimension, and that's where you can see your fractal, right? Because we talk about the nature of frequency and, you know, vibration and everything, and how each of us has a soul frequency, and it comes out through cymatics, which goes out to fractals. And you could see it, and that's weaves right back into what is consciousness. It's, you know, we all have our own little mini fractals and they weave into, you know, things in our environment, but when it comes right down to it, I entertain the idea that the universe is essentially one big fractal, the macrocosm, made up of all the little mini fractals, which is our microcosms, but they kind of loop and feed into each other. So that's why you have this expanded consciousness thing, but also this teeny tiny feeling at the same time, right?
Mm.
Um, and you know, Matt will be able to speak more on this. Hi, Matt. We know someone in the community, and it's maybe not mine to say, but there's someone who's just launched a video podcast all about consciousness. And he's launching it May 2nd, and I was his first guest. and we talked about things, and he asked, Teresa, what does consciousness mean to you? So I'll just kind of leave that there and bow to Matt's wisdom on that, and and he's laughing. Of course you're wise. And again, I'm just thrilled to be here. Oona, Pat, Robert, Eric, everybody. My heart is singing with joy, and it's nice to, as I heard recently, it's nice to shake hands with our hearts. So thank you all.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Teresa. Thank you. We have next Josh Borthwick. Hi, Josh.
I think you had Matt. Matt was next,
Yeah,
was he
I
not?
think so.
Matt?
Okay. Okay, Matt.
Hello, everybody. And can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, Pat and Oona, so nice to see you. And real quickly, Robert, Guy, so nice to see you. I love you, man. I miss you. Welcome back. So nice to see you. And Teresa, thank you so much. But you must be talking about the other Matt. So I made some notes that I'd like to share, and Pat, I'm going to try to be as quick as possible.
I'm sure you will. I had to, Matt. I love you,
I
Matt.
did-
You know that.
Yes,
Matt
and
will call and say, Pat, just 5 minutes. Let's talk for 5 minutes. And an hour and a half later, but we're both guilty of it. It was really fascinating conversations we have, but they're never short. Okay, go ahead, Matt.
a good example was yesterday, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so number one, I absolutely agree, Pat, with what you and Oona said, but I think there's a prerequisite when we talk about cities and that everybody has these capabilities. Yes, absolutely. And we've spoken about it here also. But the prerequisite that we as humans in this three-dimensional dream, many of you know what I'm talking about as far as that reference goes. But the prerequisite, as we've discussed here, is to get to that quiet place. Joe Dispenza, some of you here follow him. Some have been on the week-long retreats. He has a meditation that's close to being called the generous, precious moment. That is a guided meditation that looks to bring you to that place of nobody, no time, no place, nothing, absolute nothingness. And there are many different methods, many different meditations. Each of us have to find what works for us. But that's the place that we need to get to that I think is a prerequisite. And Dispenza says in the week-long meditation, your highest state, that is your highest state of receptivity. And that's just what Pat, you and Oona just said over here. You have to get to that spot. So we all have to figure out how to get there, and then the other stuff will come to us. I think that's what's being said here. Number two, Oona, when you were talking about the telepathy and the electrical connections, I just wanted to mention that there is a physical characteristic. I put a presentation, a slideshow, a slide presentation together a couple of years ago. I'll make it available to anybody on the third eye, the pituitary gland. And there are crystals in there. And that can act as a transducer to have I made the analogy in that presentation of a phased array antenna configuration with the crystals in the pituitary gland. So there's a physical support to that actually being the third eye. And anybody who's interested, I'm happy to share. I think it's like a 13-slide presentation. Last thing, we talk about love. Everybody agrees that that's where we have to get to, and that is the highest form of consciousness. but I wanted to propose for everybody's consideration what I believe one of the components of love is, and that is the ability for us as humans to share, to accept, be part of, and incorporate into our own being the pain and suffering of others. So if there is somebody that we love and we want to project our love to them, I think part of that is to be willing, able, ready, and requesting to share their pain and suffering so that they know they're not alone, and that we can all be there for each other. And I am now
Thank
done. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you, Matt.
well said, Matt. Thank you so
I
much.
I disagree.
Well said.
We don't have to share the pain. We don't have to share the suffering of others. We need to be there and hold space for them and be there for them so that they can stand up themselves. If we share the suffering of others, it pulls us down, and the others don't learn to get up by themselves. They stay the victims.
I respectfully disagree, and we can disagree. And
Yes.
I am not saying or implying to be there permanently. And that's a good distinction. Thank you, Oona. But I am not saying to be there permanently, to accept it permanently. But
See, if we
there's
have
transition to get them.
compassion,
It's compassion, but to get them through the state where they can be independent, they can stand on their own, and do the same for others and assist others on their journey. So it's not a permanent state I'm talking about, and thank you for bringing that out. I hope that clears it up. I'm not looking to be a crutch for others. I'm looking to help them get to the top of the hill, over the hill, and go down the other side, do the same thing, and bring others with you.
we do that with compassion. I've written a whole
Okay, I'm
book on
happy to
it.
change my language.
Yeah, we do it with compassion. There's no need for suffering ourselves in order to help others. What we do need is compassion, which is not the same as pity. It's very different. Nobody
Well, I'm
really
not
wants
talking
pity.
about.
Nobody
I'm not
really
talking.
wants pity. But
I'm
I
not
know
talking.
you weren't talking about that. It's very, very important not to feel other people's pain, but be compassionate for them so that there's a space. It's like when somebody falls down, you can go and pick them up, but you can also stand there and wait until they really need your hand. And if they don't, they might be able to, in time, get up themselves. And I learned this when I was taking dog sled rides and taking people on spiritual journeys with dog sled rides in Greenland. We were in a storm, and there were two people to a sled, and there would be the hunter. We went with hunters. And we were, I think, about 10 or 11 sleds. And it was stormy. You couldn't see anything. There was a snowstorm. We were going down a gentle hill, and one of the young hunters, his sled turned over. And my dog sled buddy, he wanted to go help this guy collect all the stuff that had splattered all over the hill. And he was told, no, he has to pick it up himself. Because in such a situation, the weakest link is what breaks the group. So everybody was there. They were untangling their dogs. Everybody was, had stopped, but nobody went and helped him. Everybody held the space for him. And if he had really needed it, somebody would have been there. but he had to get up himself because it's a matter of life and death in such a situation. So, yeah,
Well,
that's
Okay. Can I say something? Little
can I
something.
sure you
respond to
can.
Oona? Can I
Okay, go ahead.
respond to Pat?
Go ahead.
I'm not in disagreement with you, Oona, but I think that gets down to the discernment of the individual. And let me give you the quick example of the butterfly coming out of its chrysalis. If somebody helps that butterfly and cuts the chrysalis and lets the butterfly come out because they think they're helping the butterfly, that butterfly will never fly.
Yeah.
Because
It will
part
die.
of that process is exercising its wings, and it needs to go through that process to ultimately fly. And I
Yeah.
think it's up to the individual discernment of the person who's looking to help. And the word pity, just so you know, never entered my mind in any way, shape, or form in what I said before. But it's up to our individual discernment how much help we want to give, how much help they need, and if it's indeed helpful or not, or whether we're infantilizing somebody else's situation or keeping them from growing. I'm done, Pat. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. So here's what I would say. You know, this is a perfect example to me, literally, of there are so many paths to get to the same place, right? I have always been literally the rule breaker of the world here. I mean, I'll share with you a couple of things, but I've always kind of found that, look, you know, I've picked and chosen my way through situations and way through things in life. And, you know, Oona has a good point. You know, you can't get down in there because you'll get drugged down in there. But Matt also has a good point, and I will tell you that I don't know about anybody else on here, but when I'm speaking to someone and they're sharing their pain or what's happening in their life, I really can't help it but to be feeling that. I mean, I'm a very visual person, and as someone's talking about something, I literally see it. You know, I'm like, I'm in that and I'm seeing it. And so, you know, in my life, I've kind of not always done things the right way or the way that has somebody said, well, you need to do it that way. But, you know, I've gotten to the end of the rope. I mean, I've gotten to where I wanted to go by just following what feels for me to be the right thing. And I think that's all anybody really can do. You have to follow your own heart and what you think is the right thing to do. You know? Yeah, I think that's the answer to that, really. They all these roads lead to the same center anyway. They do. They're all like spokes. You know, Robert, it is true that you have really been through the ringer this last year, I would say. I think we could all agree, Robert Guy, that you have suffered some incredible stuff this year that I have to say, I'm not sure I would have. I'm such a wimp when it comes to all that kind of stuff that I'm like, yeah, no. But you know, I certainly could feel, I couldn't certainly feel absolutely the physical pain, but your emotional fear and pain for that was pretty palpable. And everybody's, I mean, this is a good example of how everybody sending love can heal somebody. Because I'm telling you, Robert, I really didn't think you were going to make it through that. I mean, I was really like, oh, and I think that all those
The
prayers.
doctors told me that
Yeah.
they didn't think I had a chance to live at all, and they thought that for certain for 5 or 6 days. The second time through in the surgery, they weren't actually certain that I would live through the surgery, and it turned out to be 10.5 hours on my spine to remove the stuff. But yeah, even beyond all that, I'm just feeling all this love. And then I had the first psychic experience, which I told you, and then the second one, months later, of hearing somebody's meditation towards me. And I think these close touches to death do bring us things that slowly come back to us. not a new ability, but the that feeling that gets stronger that you felt during that ability. But I think everybody, and I'm getting close to tears, but I didn't think I would live without everybody's love.
Yeah, I mean, it was really wonderful. Everybody literally surrounded you with love. I mean, when I kind of looked at it one time, it was like seeing a whole group of people in a circle around you, just literally sending love and healing. Yeah, it matters. So, yeah, that helps. Okay.
Okay, Janelle.
Hey, Janelle.
I'm happy to go, but was a guy named Josh supposed to ask a question?
Where did he go?
I'm here.
I don't see it.
Oh, you're here? Josh. Yeah, did you want to go first, Josh? You were up there, or did you put your hand down?
I don't know why the hand disappeared.
Ah, well, there you go. Go ahead.
Thank you, Janelle. Hello, I'm nice to meet you, Oona, and
Hi, Josh.
nice to see you again, Pat. It's I'm very thankful as well that these opportunities have continued. I just have a quick question of is there a difference in the benefit of the meditation between being working towards a feeling of drowsiness or a feeling of alertness?
Good question. Oona, you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, you're moving to different frequencies. I think somebody was talking about that before. So if you're moving towards alertness in a relaxed way, you're moving towards alpha waves. And if you're moving towards drowsiness, you're really moving towards the subconscious level. And to ascend, we need to do both, but most people miss the alpha waves. There was a time when the study of alpha waves was forbidden. It was done only by the military in the US, so that should give you a hint. And it's, as far as I understand it, there's still a lot of secret around it, so I don't have the full picture yet. As far as I understand it, the alpha waves, they work with forgiveness, they work with clearing the field, they work with being aware of your environment, your surroundings, which is really important. There's a lot of stuff happening where we're self-focused, and we've been trained to be self-focused because it's always our own fault. We had Carl Gustav Jung and Sigmund Freud, and it was either your parents or your childhood or you. And in my experience, that part is actually maybe 10%, and the environment is more like 90%. And for that, we need the alpha waves.
So you're saying alertness is better?
Well, it's not better or worse. It's different. It depends on what you want. If you want to investigate things like the future, or you want to manifest things, you may want to go into the low frequencies. But for clearing things, for making sure your environment is healthy, those 90%, you need the alpha waves. And like I said, there's probably more to alpha waves than we know, because everybody's talking about theta waves and or gamma waves, but the alpha waves have sort of been left on the side, sort of poo-pooed. And yeah, good place to explore. I'm still exploring that.
Well, I do not know the difference between all these waves. I mean, I know, Oona, you've done all these classes. It's amazing the information that you have on there. Honestly, I have never been one who has understood all the different waves, and I probably should memorize them. alpha, beta, gamma, theta, all of them. For me, honestly, when I'm meditating, there are meditations where I'm extremely alert and I'm a very still mind. And then there are times that I am literally almost in that hypnagogic, I'm almost half asleep, right? And I am finding sometimes that in that little space right there, there's a lot of stuff going on. And in that little area of that kind of drowsiness, and Oona, you probably know what wave that is, what kind of wave that is, but what level that is. There is so much going on in there that you literally could do what I think Einstein did, or whoever it was, held a rock, and as he would fall, he would have an idea of what he wanted to get an answer for, and he would hold this rock, and he'd get drowsier and drowsier, he would fall asleep, and in that moment between him sleeping and the rock hitting the floor, in that little space right there, he would get the answer. And I'm telling you, I have had that kind of stuff happen where I'm very drowsy, and all of a sudden I'm literally hearing an amazing conversation going on, or I'm hearing somebody talking to me. I'm like, what the heck? And of course, then you're out of it because you're out of that wave. And I literally don't know what stage is that, Oona.
That's theta wave.
That's theta wave. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So honestly, I think, I don't know if I'm right about this, but I would say that in all these different wave states, there is something to be gleaned from probably each one of them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's which tool do you use? Do you use a fork or a knife, or it depends on what you want to do.
And then there are people who have amazing things going on as they're sleeping.
Yeah.
Whatever wave that is. I don't know. What wave is that when you're sleeping?
It's delta.
Delta. Well, I spoke with a friend recently. Let me see if she's on here. Not on here. Anyway, this is a person who nearly every night in the dream state has all these cities, all these different cities. She's flying around. She's jumping onto buildings. She's moving things around. She's telepathic. And she's like, why am I having all these dreams? Constantly having dreams every night where I've had all these cities. I said, well, have you considered trying to maybe when you're awake, it sounds like you're either practicing or this is something you've mastered in another realm or another lifetime or something. Maybe literally try working on those things. I mean, it sounds like you're practicing a whole lot. It might not be too hard to do that. I said, now I don't know about the jumping up 5 stories. I mean, that might be a little bit tough, but yeah. So I think in all these different waves, people are literally, there's a lot going on and a lot to be learned. And these are all areas where there's probably way more going on than we know. We need to pay attention, actually. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have had telepathic experiences when I was otherwise severely exhausted after work.
Yeah. Yeah, probably you're severely exhausted and not really having many thoughts in there. And then there you go. That's when you can hear. I was amazed when I was listening to that this morning, and he said, remember that when you're concentrating and thinking, that is the receiving part of telepathy. That's the ascending part of telepathy, the transmission part of telepathy. The receiving part is no thought. And so it sounds to me almost like, Josh, when you are in that completely exhausted, no thought world there, you're able to receive telepathic communications. Yeah, pretty cool.
Hey.
Yes, it is. Thank you for the answers.
You getting any good information in those things? Anything you can share?
It happened when I, maybe 15 years ago. Since then, I've pretty much had to be very busy. And it was spontaneous, and at the time, I did not have resources for continuing my experience or studies. But I did. It was it was basically like an acknowledgement of their presence of the two people, not humans, I don't think anyway, but whoever they were, they were pretty much like acknowledging and coming and saying, "Hey, how are you?" And little conversation like that when I was just laying my head down on the table.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's fun when that happens. Kind of takes you by surprise though, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay. Janelle?
Hi there. I have a question about energy vortexes. I have heard that Asheville, North Carolina is an energy vortex, much like Sedona, Arizona, or Mount Shasta, California. Can you tell me if you've heard about Asheville, North Carolina being an energy vortex, and is that even a thing? Does it even matter?
You want to answer
Pat,
that,
you
Oona?
or me? I can take it. I was in
You-
Nashville, yes, and I've been in Sedona with Pat for one of our exciting C5 adventures. Mm, you can find vortices everywhere. It's, they might be stronger in Sedona, and you can check them out, and people know where they are, and there's tours to do that, and same in Nashville. There are definitely places that have higher energy than other places. For me personally, the vortices don't matter as much as the crystalline content of the earth below. So when I am on land, and I live in Scotland, on a peninsula that, with the old name being the Kingdom of Light, and it's full of crystalline energy, and many people cannot live there for longer than 2 years. It's such strong energy. So also there's other places, spiritual places, that have very, very strong energy and that are not very well known. It's, yeah, I didn't find for me Asheville to be such a strong attraction in terms of energy places. There's definitely, there's something about, there was this Korean chap who did sound engineering for concerts, and he realized that the sound changed depending on where he was, and that if he was in high spiritual places, the sound was much better than in other places. So there definitely is a difference between where we are on this earth. He actually invented a healing machine based on that, which is still used in hospitals in Korea. And there's 3 machines in Europe, I think. I guess you'd have to figure this out yourself, if it's about whether you want to live there or not live there, or how attractive it is. I would say don't go by what somebody else says. Go by what you sense and what you feel and what you observe.
Yeah, I've been to Asheville numerous times, and now I don't live very far from Asheville. First of all, now Janelle, are you in that area?
No, I'm in Northern Virginia, but I would like to go camping this summer, and Asheville it's less than 500 miles, so it's within my reach.
Right. There's a CE5 group there, by the way, run by Mark Hagerling. And, Asheville is absolutely beautiful. And those mountains, these Blue Ridge Mountains, are honestly, these are truly, truly beautiful places. And as you drive through, you can feel the energy of all the wildlife and the trees and the mountains. And of course, we tend to overlook. We're so used to seeing trees. We're so used to seeing wildlife. We're so used to seeing the grass and bushes, right? We don't even think about it. This is a community of beings. Actually, these are consciousness. Literally, trees are conscious, right? Living things. And so, in those areas where there's so much forested area, and it's so pristine and so untouched, and those mountains are so huge. I can't imagine that all along there isn't pretty much good energy there. Oona, I was going to ask you, when you were going to Arkansas, remember you were going up there to work with that woman, remember? Now, Arkansas, as some may know, some may not know, Arkansas is full of quartz. I mean, the whole area is quartz, 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 and quartz. Lots of crystal stuff there. Did you notice a difference there, Oona? I mean, that whole area is crystalline, really.
Yes, and it was pockets. There were areas that were quite run down, and that's just because of human interaction, which was, maybe not so healthy. And there were other places that were very high in energy, and a very different energy to other places.
Yeah, there are a lot of crystals that come out of those mountains or in Arkansas.
Yeah.
I mean, to tell you.
And it's human interaction which can really tear down an energy of a land area, and also uplift it.
Yeah, there's a very unusual thing about that Arkansas area with all those crystals. I don't remember where I heard this or who talked about this, but there was supposedly like a body of water underneath that whole area where these crystals are, and it's really pretty. It's a pretty phenomenal energy. Do you remember where we heard that? Where you heard that?
I don't.
It's really interesting. It may have been something in one of these books that ETs were talking about. It's really quite stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's each individual crystal is different. So I went there to pick up some crystals also. I went to this crystal store where they were mining the crystals also. And depending on which crystal I was holding, the energy was very, very different.
Yeah. This is a crystal, and I don't know where it came from, but I don't know where I even got this thing. This thing is like so huge that is like the biggest crystal I've ever seen. And it's interesting. Each crystal seems to have its own little personality.
Yes.
Quite interesting. Quite interesting. Yeah.
Yolanda.
Hey, Yolanda, it's so good to see you.
Hi, Pat. How you doing?
Good.
Miss you.
Yeah, I miss you too.
Oh, now too. I'm so glad Robert is doing so well. Been praying for him every day. So I'm glad he's receiving that good energy. This is a great talk. It's hit on a lot of interesting topics about consciousness. And I just wanted to give my little take on my journey in trying to get into my consciousness. And I think meditation has a lot to do with it. At times I do drift off to sleep, but I kind of power through it and I think I agreed with you, Pat, how you start hearing things and conversation starts kicking in, and it's actually when that time at that speck of time, that's when everything is quiet and calm, and that's when you hear everything, conversation and all of that is great, I think. And with all that, I think it does absolutely heighten your frequency and all your other senses and your telepathic skills and all of that. And then that night, I just take off. So I always ask for my visual cognitive self to kind of open up so I can see what's going on. At times I do see things, other worlds and other star peoples, and it's interesting. We get up in the morning, I'm exhausted, but it's great. It really is. And I would like to make a comment about, I think Matt mentioned about helping others and when of feeling their pain and suffering. I don't know, something about those words, the pain and suffering, is kind of negative feel to it. I wouldn't go that way to help someone. I always send them love and feelings of goodwill, and I just leave it at that, you know. So if you're suffering or anything, just send that love, the feeling of love will embrace you. It will heighten you. So, but you know, everyone has to find their own way. Everyone has their own path. But that's all I wanted to say. But I'm so glad that we're all connected. You know, it's great. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So
Yep.
thank you so much.
Good to
Thank
see
you,
you,
Yolanda.
Yolanda. Thanks.
And obviously it's helped with Robert, and Robert, you're next.
Thank you. Pat, you had mentioned Howard Menger as well as Una. Which book were you referring to on telepathy about sending and receiving techniques for oneself, quiet mind? Was it From Outer Space to You, or
No, that
different,
one, the Howard Menger book is called From Outer Space to You. The book that I was listening to this morning, now I've listened to it before and totally missed it, is Two Men of Earth by Daniel Fry.
Daniel Fry, thank you.
Daniel Fry. And it's Daniel Fry and Valiant Thor. Fascinating book. I mean, these books are so full of information that we can all use. It's just incredible. Really.
So to Men of Earth had the techniques about the quiet mind for telepathy. Okay.
Yeah. And really, honestly, I was making juice because I like to do juicing. And so I'm doing all my vegetables and stuff. And I hear this and he said, can you share with me, he said, the schematics or a picture of your propulsion? And the being said, yes, we can. But we'll send it to you. We'd have to send it to you telepathically. And he says, well, the guy mentioned something about ESP. And he said, well, that's when he went into the whole conversation about, look, you'd have to have completely quiet mind. Don't sit and try to concentrate to get what we're sending you. That is the transmission mode. But he said, in order to hear this, in order for us to send you this picture, you will have to go to completely quiet mind, nothingness. Yes, and that's in. So I'm listening to this and I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I miss that the first dozen times I listened to this? So I'm going back and forth and going 30 seconds back and 30 seconds back because I'm listening to this on Audible. And yeah, just amazing.
Thank you.
Little nuggets of information and knowledge. Yep.
Hey, Laureen.
Hi, I just
Hi,
wanted to
good to see you.
Hi.
You're one of our expedition buddies.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I wanted to say hi, and it's so good to see you both. And I am so grateful that Una is hosting this and that you are back in our lives in this capacity, many other capacities too. But it's just so good to see you. And I don't know, as we're listening, this thing pops in my head that you should have a little podcast that's called, what should I write down here? Let's Talk Consciousness. Or your favorite, wait, what just happened? I think awesome, an awesome podcast.
Yeah.
So we just have to figure out how to get you hosted so that we can see you more often. And I'm happy to take a list of emails and shoot out a broadcast email to everybody and let them know when you're going to be and where you're going to be. I think
that would be somebody would need to do that because I'm have no emails. I mean, I have emails of some of the people on here, but I don't have emails of everybody. And I don't keep emails.
I would be happy to do that. If you could, if everybody, well, it's up to Una because this is Una's platform, but I would be happy to shoot out the email, collect the email addresses of people that wanted to give them to me. I'd be happy to do that. The other thing that I wanted to mention was when Mark was talking about taking on other people's sadness and taking on other people's pain and suffering. That's hard because a lot of us are empaths, and I work in an arena where there's a lot of dysregulated emotion, and that one or two people in the milieu that have that dysregulation can screw up the whole milieu. And it takes a lot to try to calm that back down. So when I start feeling somebody else's emotions, I try to recognize it right away, because sometimes I'll say, why am I feeling this way? This is not mine. Where am I picking this up from? And so I try to send it back to that person with love and say, this is not mine. This belongs to so-and-so. I'm sending it back to them with love, and please let it be transmuted, because it's their journey to feel that. It's not my journey to feel what they're feeling, but definitely I want to have love for them and hold space for them and let them know that, yeah, this is really hard. This really stinks what's happening to you. And if I had a magic wand, I would change it, but I can't. It's something you have to process, you have to go through. But I'm certainly here to listen and help you and support you in ways that I can. But I don't want to feel that pain for any length of time. So we got to keep our auras clean, because then it's a hard job for us to clear our auras of all of that. And it changes how we process information. It changes how we move through our day, and it affects all the people that we love, and it affects the people that we come in contact with. I had gone to this wonderful little transformation weekend, and it was so interesting because you just feel how you get light. Your body gets light, and your attitude changes, and you see things differently. And I was going through the airport, and I have a bag of supplements, and my naturopath wrote me a letter that said, that these are biologicals, and they have to be hand checked, because they always give me a hard time when I try to get my stuff hand checked. I don't want them x-rayed. And so this one TSA agent, she was looking at them, and she goes, okay, these are yours. And I said, maybe someday I won't have to, drag all these through the airport. And she said to me, you just keep traveling. She handed it back to me, and she gave me this giant hug. Well, I'm sorry, but TSA doesn't just reach out and hug you arbitrarily, right? That just doesn't happen. They just don't touch passengers like that. And that almost made me absolutely cry. That, did she think that I needed a hug and she gave me a hug, or did she need a hug and she felt my energy had shifted and changed because of that weekend, and she wanted to come into my auric field? I'm not sure which it was, but it was the most amazing thing after coming off that weekend. So we have to really work on keeping our energy or our frequency as clean as we can. And when that other energy comes in, we just have to say, okay, where did that come from? What is it? And send it back with love, and then let it be transmuted, because your energy is so precious and you have to protect it. All right, off my soapbox, but I just really wanted to say hi.
Oh, hi,
Good to
Lorraine.
see you. So,
When it
Lorraine,
comes to emails, yeah, you go ahead, Pat.
well, I
Or
was
shall
going
I?
to say, if somebody has emails, we can certainly, I miss these as much as everybody else does. Absolutely. I mean, this is not just you guys learning from us. We are all learning from each other. And, I made this very, very crystal clear, hopefully all the way through all the Zoom calls we've been on for years here, that the importance of this is that we are all learning from each other. No one person on here has all the answers, right? We all are learning from each other. And the importance is being in a group together to explore all that we all can learn from each other. That is what is important. The Zoom calls, I really want to say this and make this clear. They were never about, it was not about me being like some guru or something, which I'm not. It really was basically everybody learning from each other and having a community that people could really come together and safely talk about anything they wanted to talk about, explore anything they wanted to explore, right? Learn about consciousness, learn about meditation, learn about energy, learn about what this reality is that we all find ourselves struggling in, right? That's what it's about. And I think I'm happy to do these Zoom calls, and I'm happy to do them once a month. If it looks like we should do them twice a month, we can do it twice a month. I don't mind doing that. Obviously, I'm not going back to 14, which is what I was doing for the Greers when I left. It was 14 Zooms. I was like, oh, I think literally my life had turned into a Zoom call. Literally, that's what my life was. But I think, so the critical thing is, as you all know, I am not the tech person, never have been, never will be, ever, ever, ever. That is not my goal in life, is to be a tech person. No. Social media, no. And so the whole idea of having to do a website or a YouTube or blah, blah, that's probably not me. But if I have emails and if we can set it up where we have a certain time that we'll do them, I'm happy to do it. But it just has to be where I have emails to be able to send out, or somehow somebody sends them out or something like that.
So when it comes to emails, and I've done C5 Europe now for quite a long time, and it's not really been Europe, it's been very international. Corinne's from Canada, and she's been guiding meditations and being the tech person like today. Also, if you send out an email to many people, it doesn't necessarily go through because there's limits. So you need some kind of program. You might need constant contact or something, and so you need a system. So what we have for C5 Europe is, if you're signed up for the blog on C5 Europe, you get the information. That's how I send out information to people. And it happens, 4, 5, 6 times a year, maybe, when there's something special. So I'm happy to continue this for Pat. But it can be done in other ways. But I strongly suggest that if you're collecting emails, you have a program to send something out.
Okay.
Now, run it again. A program of what? Run that by me.
Some kind of program. So you need either a program that sends out emails, like yeah. You can't just do it from your own personal email
like
and put everybody in CC.
Like MailChimp or something like that.
Like a website, like C5 Europe has a website and sends it out through the blog, and then it comes into people's personal email.
Because it's a mass mailing. It's an email list, and then it would be a mass mailing. And another way that it could be done is that Facebook pages are super simple to set up. Set up a Facebook page, and then
it doesn't work. Because there's so many people who don't do Facebook. So many people have gotten off Facebook. You won't reach everybody that way.
Well, that's true. I don't go on there too often, so that's true. Well, we have to find a way, because Pat, you're so humble and you do have a lot of information, and we certainly do learn from each other. There's no doubt about that. And I love to hear everybody's ideas and their thoughts on things. But you are an excellent facilitator, and that is really important as well. And Oona is an excellent facilitator. And so we need to have somebody who is willing to be the facilitator. And I mean, you're two very excellent people for doing
it's, if we continue this, I'm happy to do this. I have this Zoom for 100 people. I can, all you have to do is sign up for the blog and you'll get the information. But it's really up to Pat. And I have a feeling that Stephen has something to say too to this. I'm getting a sense that
I think that's a good idea. I think it's a good idea. I think we also should collect all the emails too, because I think that is also something going forward that might be necessary too.
Do you want to do that, Lorraine? Collect the ones that are in the chat?
Yeah. If you're going
for whatever we need them for.
Chat? Can you save the chat, Oona, and email me the chat?
Yes, I'll do that. Yeah.
Okay, then email me the chat, and I'm happy to take some time and go through it.
Thank you, Lorraine.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, I struggled a lot after this thing of how to go forward with this, because I know that there's a need for this, right? There really is just a huge need for it. And we all learn. I mean, I learn from everybody on here as much as everybody learns from me. And so, but I really couldn't I just kind of put it out to the universe. Look, if I'm supposed to do this, then there has to be kind of something that pops up of a way to do it, because I am not the social media person. I am not the tech person. This is not my thing. And I had to really kind of look at how much time I wanted to put into it as well. Twice a month, once, twice a month is not a problem. As I said, I was up to 14 Zooms, and that was getting to be a little bit much, but I've just kind of been waiting to see what does the universe show, right? I know that my purpose, one of my huge purposes in this lifetime on this planet, is what we're doing right here. This right here that we're doing is one of my purposes for sure. Everybody that's on these calls we're all on the same path. Yes, we all have our regular personal paths too, but we're all on this spiritual path of trying to evolve, trying to understand, trying to gather information, get wisdom, figure out the mysteries of this universe. That's what we're all trying to do. And it's a lot more fun when we're doing it together. It's really, I just love people. And so I think it's a good thing to do. Okay.
I'm glad you agree.
Yes, I do. Good to see you, Laureen.
Good to see you.
Hey, are you ever going to move?
Oh, I'm hoping. Dan's on the roof right now. I said, we have a flat roof because of where we live. So he's up there right now, patching little things that need to be patched, and then he's going to recode it. And I keep telling him, he's the one that carries the benefits for us. So I keep telling him, keep searching for a job because I'm done here. You mentioned, oh, everybody takes grass for granted and trees. I'm like, I don't. I want that again. I don't.
Yeah, I love it here. I have to say, North Carolina is really wonderful. Love it.
Yes, as soon as he finds an opening, and I put that up to the universe too. I say, you're going to lead us where we have to go. But could you hurry up? I want to go soon. So, yeah, we're looking for a place.
Okay.
Stephen.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I am so sorry. I'm like copy and pasting emails. I wanted to cover a few things. Laureen, love the idea. Sending love and gratitude to all of you all. There's so many things I wanted to say, but I want to make sure I get these last bit of emails here just in case. I know my team will definitely, or our team will definitely be holding us down, getting these emails added to the list. But just to go over that point really quickly, we have been building an email list ever since the beginning of this new chapter for everyone, I'll say. And we've gotten in communication with a few people from Discord that showed genuine interest in the meetings prior, and also on Facebook. I also personally don't have a Facebook, just to add on to that point as well, Oona and Laureen. But I do also equally see how important this is to make sure that we keep this communication between each other. So, and I'm so glad that I'm starting to see a few names of people that I was actually really actively looking for. Anna, you were one of them, frankly. Anna, I don't know how to pronounce it, Matthias, hopefully. And a few other people, and a lot of other people in this chat as well. We've already collected you all's emails too, but we have a few more to add into here as well. So we will definitely be happy to continue making sure we can do whatever we can to make these meetings as seamless as possible for everyone involved and to continue them. We intended on, frankly, gathering today with our small team of project managers that we were hoping to grow. And it seems like, Laureen, you prompted that conversation in a divine timing, which is perfect. So especially right before my hand was already raised or after yours. So wanted to share that. And we were interested in actually meeting later on today, but you shared a few days ago, Pat, that this was something that was occurring. So we just sent out this email to everyone on our email list, which was about 50 people at the time. Now, in the last 10 minutes, we've grown it to about like 66 people. And I have a few more emails to add into there, but we do have an email list. And I wanted to share that we will do whatever we can to make the process for you, Pat, if you're open to it, as seamless as possible. You have a strong support team, even without having to ask.
Wow. Thank you.
No, thank
Stefan,
you.
I just wanted to say that you can save the chat just within underneath the text input. There's an ellipses, the 3 dots. You click on that, choose Save Chat. It'll save to Documents /Zoom, and then it's ordered by date. Put it in
I
the text. It just saves it.
Will that be for everyone, or is it just the host or the co-host?
It'll be for everyone. If you're not an admin, you won't see some stuff, but all of the meeting group chat will show up. All of the messages to you will also be whispered to you, will also show up in that chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'll definitely do my best to follow those instructions. If not, have your email. I'll ask you about that. Or if anyone else had probably already downloaded that following that, please feel free to share it with me. But thank you for that. And I copied and pasted a few bits. So I probably won't have to do too many emails afterwards, but we'll see. But thank you again. Seriously, it's really awesome to see all of you all again. I've been loving making sure we maintain these meetings as well. And I wanted to share a few things earlier to the point about the thoughts and the sending and receiving portion. Ironically, or I guess coincidentally, but we know there's no such thing as that. I was having a conversation with my sister this week about that, frankly, and she shared something with me, and I had to take a second because, and this is part of my notes I wanted to share, just like with lightning or electricity, it's interesting how a light packet or a thought can lead to so many other thoughts instantly at once. So my sister asked me a question, and there were so many things that I thought of in response to it, and I had to take some time to just process it because of how much it actually went into. And it's akin to like lightning striking or a tree branch, frankly. It starts from one point, it just goes to multiple different areas. So I had to take a second and explain to her that there's going to be a bit of things I'm going to share right now. It may sound like a lot, but I want you to see how it's tied to this one thought specifically, and how instantaneously this is what I was thinking about, but my mouth can only communicate that so fast, right? So, and so efficiently either at that point too, when it comes to memory and just going through some of those paths as just explaining it. So I explained that analogy as the as above, so below kind of thing when it comes to thoughts and receiving them in the same way of sending them. So there was I shared a lot of stories with her growing up about city experiences, I guess you can say. I mean, not I guess, they were that, but I had experiences before where I would be able to guess colors, and I don't want to make this sound like I'm like looking for attention in this kind of way, but I remember explaining that, oh yeah, sometimes I would like, can guess like certain numbers or like letters with certain people, and I would imagine like a tunnel. And this is when I was younger in church, which also says a lot about my mindset then. Nothing wrong with church, of course, but very new to the world. First thing, we were sitting in church, and I imagined a tunnel in my mind space, between myself and another person, and just kind of, I guess, being nosy as a child. It was like, what are they thinking about? Just imagining I was perceiving what they were thinking. And that was just an interesting practice that led to this experience that after I came across Dr. Greer and I started practicing remote viewing, and he would talk about getting, of course, into that deep state and then being able to differentiate thoughts that you're manually creating versus thoughts that are actually just downloads, right? And I've only played this game that Dr. Greer suggested once with someone, and they lived in Texas. I'm in Georgia, and we were doing the remote viewing game where I would hold onto an object and I would tap it, and I'd imagine sending that signal or hear the sound, and I'm sending all 5 of my senses. What does it sound like? What does it feel like? What does it taste like? Just perceiving all of it in my mind space, but like as a push thought, which is I'll go into a little later. And it was interesting that while he was doing, it was his turn, he was playing the game, he was sending me information, right? And I was testing myself to be open to receiving it. And I could hear myself thinking about all the logical thoughts around things, because I went to school for psychology, so I can kind of psychoanalyze in a normal way. But there was a point in it where I realized, no, these are my thoughts. That's not a download. That's me thinking. So I was able to get into that quiet state and just not think and just listen. And like the moment I touched that space, instantly this picture came in, and it felt different than the first thoughts. I'm like, oh, that was interesting. So I wanted to stay there for a little while to get a little bit more if I could. And I wasn't able to get anything more than that download, but that download was so much, which is going into that whole one thought could be unpacked into like multiple different things. So the flash image of a black shape, and I couldn't perceive this at first, so it didn't make sense until after he explained what it was. this black shape with multiple points on one side and only one point on another side. And I didn't think to count the number of how many points on the right side. I just knew that it was more on one side and then one point on another, and it was a black shape. So after like maybe 5 or 10 minutes, just like kind of staying in that state, if I can like perceive a little bit more, I kind of just gave up and told them, hey, I couldn't get anything more. But there was this interesting experience I just had where I could tell the difference between my own thoughts and something that just didn't seem like my own. And I told him the color, I told him the shape, and he told me, yeah, well, ironic. Well, I'm holding a black skull cap like in my hand, and like it's like perfectly over his hand. So like as he was telling me this, I was seeing, oh, well, that could have been actually what it was. Like I could see like the black skull cap over your hand, and like you have your fingers spread, and maybe it was all your fingers on one side, and then it was the thumb on the other side. And I was like, oh, well, that was really interesting how specific that was. And I could only put it together after you told me what it was, but it was interesting being able to further understand my own thoughts or sending, and then also being able to receive something that I could tell wasn't my own thought. And I've noticed something around, I work in sales, but I'm also in Taekwondo, and people are pushing thoughts. Companies are pushing thoughts all the time. Like pushing thoughts is definitely a thing. And I've noticed it in communication when I use voice affliction and a bunch of other different of the senses to kind of push thoughts in multiple different ways. But and I also noticed it in Taekwondo, even without actual physical communication, people are pushing thoughts with their eyes. Like in the animal kingdom, obviously it's the same thing where they have this sensory perception of their environment that's much more enhanced than humans, but they're more open to receiving information, and it makes sense being in those different states, right? So I just wanted to just touch on that because this week was something specific to communication via the mind and what sending and receiving looks like, and those examples that I was able to kind of differentiate what that looks like as well for myself. That was almost pretty much it. The last thing I was actually going to ask was, Pat, how I was going to share with you our intent as moving into having these meetings still and what our individual group had planned, but it sounds like you have certain plans, of course, that may be unfolding with that, but just know that if there is anything that we can do to be able to assist that, we don't want to take away any attention away from the agenda that you have planned because it aligns with our own. And we would love to be support for that. But if you don't have any intentions on that, there is no pressure. This is work that we should all be doing on our own. But I just wanted to ask if, with confirmation, if this is something that you do intend on for the future for these gatherings.
You mean what we're doing right now? Yes. I think so. I think they're important. I think they're too important to let go. They just are. And however we get to do this, we'll figure it out. But yeah, I think it's important to do these. And I feel like it's kind of part of my purpose, really. With the Greers, often what I would do on the 3-day events, and sometimes even on the 6-day events, but certainly on the 3-day events, I would do MC, which is basically, an MC is a master of ceremonies kind of person, right? Where you get up and you just and have everybody, say hello to everybody, and you kind of start the meeting. And that's kind of what this is to me. I'm sort of like an MC, sort of, just that sounds or hosting, whatever you want to say. But I think they're important. I think it's important for people to have a place to get together like that. It's a community, and communities aren't communities if they don't meet.
100% agree. Thank you so much for that. I can connect with you afterwards on how we can better collaborate on that just to make sure it's efficient as possible. But yes, we will support in any ways possible to make this seamless for everyone.
Great. Thank you, Stephen.
No problem.
Love that background. I miss that background. I would say, somebody said, well, Stephen Chin, like Stephen Chin. I said, the guy with the pink tree in the background. I love that thing. It's like Japanese or something, isn't it?
I'm a really big fan of cherry blossom trees. Yes, I kind of went into that. So thank you for that.
Love that. I've always thought, it would be great to go see the cherry blossoms in Japan. Yeah. Thank you. Yep. say, Fatima and Sebastian, how are you?
How are you, Pat? How are
Good.
you, everybody?
Good.
Love and gratitude to you. Nice to see you also.
Good to see you guys. Missed you. Fatima,
Yeah.
I love your letters. I mean, your emails have been so touching and really wonderful. Really wonderful. Thank you.
And I just wanted to say thank you. I'm very grateful to be here. And I love you so much. You and all the guys. I love you. I love
Thank you.
Yeah, we just wanted to share and add to Stephen. I want to say thank you to Stephen, to Matt, to Don, and to Fatima, because we have kept up the flame, let's say, somehow collecting the emails. Basically, Stephen and Fatima had done a very kind work, and we were waiting for the call, and if not, we will try to gather, because I think from this situation, we got resilience. Also, we stay connected. We feel that the bonds are tight, and we can continue. So we are here and hope we can get this moving. Thank you very much, and we love you all.
Yes. Yeah, thank you guys. I know you guys have been working in the background trying to figure out a way to make this go forward. Sorry for my cough. I have these little grandsons that are always sick. Somebody's always got a runny nose somewhere, and then I end up with that. It's the way it is. It's the price I pay for being around my grandchildren every day. So, which I love. The universe works in very odd ways, does it not? I mean, it really does. Things happen, for a reason. It is kind of a perfect universe at the end of the day. Things happen as they are to happen, and then the time that they're meant to be. And that's just the way it works. And, we can struggle against it, and we can, suffer with it. But at the end of the day, it's better just to embrace whatever happens, just embrace it and move forward and do what you can to fulfill your purpose. I think that's kind of what we all are doing on these calls. Every single person on here, to me, I mean, Oona, were you and I talking about this the other day? I can't remember if it was you and I or Mary and I. We were talking about
By the way, Mary's on the call now.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, because I want to bring that. I want to ask her a question. But this thing that all of these people who are interested in this particular subject, right? We're interested in UFOs, we're interested in ETs, but we're really interested in the consciousness and the development of the human civilization on this planet, basically. And it's sort of like what I see is all these people that somewhere in some realm put their hands up and said, I'll come, I'll help, I'll be coming, I'll help. And that's what this is to me. This is people from all walks of life. They all have different skills. Everybody has a different skill set, right? We all know what one of the skill sets I don't have is technology, but I have other skills. We all bring what we know, and our experiences on this earth so far to this very point in time. And I think this very point in time is important. I think we're moving certainly towards, hopefully, some sort of evolution of this, civilization, and some sort of going forward. So to me, that's what was really so incredible, was this group. And I said to somebody, this is really a rare group of people here. It's rare to find so many people who come from all walks of life. They're all different ages, right? There's people on here that are very young. I'm not very, very old, but I'm certainly old. And, they've all come together with all these different, we're all so different, but we have a common purpose. And that is what I think is so amazing about this group, is everybody has this common purpose. So I think we're all here for a reason. And so I think it's important for for everybody to be able to move forward and at least check in with each other. Yeah.
Yeah. And the last thing is, when we were, or when the platform and the C5 group closed, I think we got learnings because we stick to the meditations with love. So some things got inside that keeps on living apart from everything. So I think that's really, really important. And thank you again for everything.
Yeah, I think you're right. That is very important. That does, that once that seed is sown, it grows. It definitely continues, you know. Sometimes without even much watering and feeding, it still grows, right? Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. I know you guys have been working a lot in the background, Dawn, Stephen, Fatima, Matt. Yeah, everybody, thank you so much. Kind of gave me a little bit of courage, and I thought, you know, do I want to do this or want to do it? I mean, I kind of always knew that I wanted to do it, but I really, you know, I had done that I'd been in that organization for 7 years, really, and had done that. I don't know how long we did these Zoom calls. I don't remember how long this membership was. I'm trying to remember what year that was. It was when we did the, whatever year we did the Demi Lovato trip was. That's when I think this thing got set up. I don't know if that was 2021, 2020, somewhere in there.
2020, towards the end.
Was it towards the end of 2020? Okay. Yeah, that was, so wow, we did those calls for years. You know, time flies when you're having a good time. Yeah. Lots of love on this call. I mean, this has been really a transformative journey for me, certainly, but I think for all of us, it's very transformative, which is good. Thank you.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you guys. Okay.
So do you want to go to the next person, Anna, or do you want to speak to Mary?
Let me ask Mary one quick thing. Mary, you on here?
So Mary, Pat, and I, we went to South Korea together, also on a C5 expedition type thing.
Yes, actually, the colonel asked me, you know, when I say the colonel, I'm talking about one of our whistleblowers from Washington. I said to him, well, you knew that I went to South Korea? And he said, you went to South Korea? I said, yeah, I went to South Korea. And because he had been stationed in South Korea, he knew it well. We were talking about Namsan Tower, you know, having gone up in Namsan Tower and, you know, actually the UFO that's in South Korea and where it's located. And he was very familiar with that, And it was really funny. He said, what were you doing there? I said, well, we were officially tourists. That's what we were, officially tourists. And no, this was not anything I did. In fact, Dr. Greer didn't even know that I was even there. He called one night and said, well, it's raining here at night. And I said, yeah, it's morning here, but it's raining. He said, where are you? I said, I'm in Seoul, South Korea. My God, what are you doing there? So officially we were there as tourists. Unofficially, we were there doing something else. Yes, doing some other kind of work there. But so Mary, you and I were talking about telepathy yesterday or the day before, right? Now.
Yes, we were.
Okay, so this morning, Mary, at like 7:30, somewhere in early morning, I wake up and I'm laying there and I hear you say my name. Very clearly, your voice said, Pat. Wow. By any chance,
wow.
Were you doing that?
That's about the time that I woke up this morning. And I was thinking about you. I didn't actually say Pat, but I was thinking about you.
Isn't that interesting? It was like when I first woke up, it was like around 7:30. And it was the clearest, as clear as a bell. And it was clearly your voice. And I thought, oh my God, that's Mary. That is so odd. It was very clear, just Pat. I don't know, Mary, we're going to have to work on this.
Yes.
I don't know. I think we all are going to have to try to figure out how this works.
Definitely. Did you try the lucid dreaming technique?
I did not. I have to admit, I did not. I was going to, and I completely forgot it. I was checking emails before I fell asleep, and the next thing you know, I was asleep. But I'm going to try it. And I think that's an excellent technique. I wish you would share that with everybody because I think it's important.
Sure, I would love to.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a little bit more than just engaging lucid dreaming. Like I was telling you, Pat, it's also opening portals to other dimensions or points in time or reality. And it's a safe space where beings can meet you. Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to teach it.
Yeah, well, tell them. I mean, this is a technique that Mary uses to do lucid dreaming. I think there's a lot of techniques. There are a lot, and what works for one may not work for another. But like I said, I think you need to try them all out and see which one works. But this is a good one, Mary.
Okay. I have several different ones, but the one that's the easiest for me if I'm really tired and I can't really focus very well, or I can't hold my focus for very long, what I do is I just imagine a color, and that's all I will see in my mind's eye. I close my eyes. Create a very dark, um, like sleeping condition, and I just see the color, one specific color, and then I basically make like a cloud of that color and light, and I immerse myself in it. It becomes like my world, and and it's in between the sleep and awake point. It's the same as very, very deep meditation. And basically I create a portal and send my consciousness there. And from that point, I can either go into a lucid dream and see my life, various points of my life, or I can become someone else and live someone else's life, or an animal, or an extraterrestrial, a celestial, whatever, or I can also meet other beings there in that space. It's a space in between realities. And I've been doing that since I was a very small child. I think anyone can do it. It's just I've never heard anyone talk about something like that. But for me, it works every single time. And I've taught this to other people, and they're usually surprised at how easy it is and how effective it is. It doesn't always work for everyone, obviously, but it could be a starting point, or it may take a few times, or you may discover that instead of a color, maybe focus on a shape, or sometimes before I started traveling the world, I wanted to see the world. So I would basically, instead of a color, I would have like Hawaii. Before I ever went to Hawaii, I would have Hawaii, and I would send my consciousness there. And I would see Hawaii and experience things. And when I actually went to Hawaii, I had already seen everything, everything that I was coming across and seeing in 3D for the first time. I had already seen several times. My consciousness had already been there several times. So, yeah, yeah, that's something that I think everyone should try. At least try it. Like I said, if you want to interact with other beings, you can ask for them to meet you there. I usually do that before I even get started. I will just send the thoughts out of like, hello guys, here I am. Like I imagine energy, kind of like a bat signal coming out of me as I'm laying in bed, of like, here I am, I'm open to meeting. And I will send the thoughts out of like, this is what I'm doing. If you want to come and meet, I'll be there. And yeah, so that's just my little tidbit to share and hopefully pass on.
Yeah, I think it's important. When you told me that, I said, wow, so this is the kind of information that we have to share with people, because it's yet another technique or another tool for your toolbox, right? It's yet another tool to use and develop. I mean, this is how we develop these things. Yeah, pretty cool. One of these times we should, let's get to some of these other questions, but at some point, Oona and Mary, we should attend to maybe speaking a little bit more about our trip to South Korea and what we were doing there and what we did do there and what we experienced there, which was a lot of stuff.
Shall we keep that for the next meeting?
We could do that. We could do that. Okay, thanks, Mary. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thank you. My
I'm
pleasure.
going to try it. Yeah.
Anna.
Oona, a very good pronunciation of my name without me having to tell you. Oh, sorry, Pat. Yeah, you called me Anna for a long time.
Anna, sorry. Anna.
No, it's all right. Oh, thank you. So good to see everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks. And thanks for calling me out, Stephen. I was thinking of you recently too. I'm like, maybe I'll see him again someday. I never even spoke to you directly in any of these calls. So I'm here right now mainly because I wasn't going to speak up, but two of the cats kind of were implying I should say something, not directly. I just because Josh's cat was walking around and then, oh, fine, I'll show him. Okay. This is part of the story, so it's relevant. This cat right here, yes, he was also crawling around and purring like crazy during the call earlier. He got neutered yesterday, just as a little background. He's only 6 months old. So why I'm talking about cats is back in November, I hopped on one of the calls with Pat and with the ambassador group and mentioned that I had a 7-year-old Persian cat, black, fluffy, who was sick. And I actually held him up to the camera too. And I was just feeling very emotional then because he was dying of a late stage polycystic kidney disease. And eventually he did pass at the day after Thanksgiving. So in January, I ended up getting 2 new kittens, and this is one of them. So why this cat story is interesting is in October, I didn't know he was dying yet. I just knew he had the disease, and I was fearful that it was going to be happening soon. But another interesting thing is that during the month of October, I had been participating in this group since about August and had learned about Dr. Greer in I don't know, maybe March or February, and grown into this ever since then. And it's been fulfilling this part of myself that's been there for a very, very long time. And I've been growing like at rocket speed because I've actually been trying to. And so in the month of October, I had this feeling I feel so fulfilled right now that I don't think I need to use my little animal buddy as my kind of emotional support I love having pets because they make me feel so happy, but I was using him as more than just a cat. I needed that little creature, so I sort of said to the universe, not talking intentionally to the universe, but I sort of just said, well, I don't think I really need I don't need to have him in that human emotional way anymore. And I kind of like, I don't want to lose him. I love him, but I was okay to let him go. And then a month later, he died. So I don't know if he was holding on longer this year for that year for me or what. Seems like it. So because that was October, I didn't even know he was going to pass when I had that thought. In November, he did. So also, in the middle of October, I woke up one morning in a hypnagogic state, like people have been talking about. And the instant I woke up, it was that body entirely frozen, no, and mind clear. And the moment my brain awoke out of dream state, there was just a head, a transparent head that was the shape of a tiger. And it scared me, actually. I didn't think it was a good thing. And it is because it had spherical glowing red eyes, like solid red spheres. The rest of it was transparent and it was a tiger. So I tried to stay calm, but I felt like a fear welling up. And I said to myself, I said to it, I'm like, maybe you can go away now. I'm not very comfortable with looking at you. I think you might be scary. So, but I didn't get, and so eventually I had to kind of force myself to just snap out of it and just fully wake up. A couple months later, it appeared again, but less sharp, and this time the eyes were yellow. And then a couple months later, it appeared again, even more fuzzy, and it got fuzzier by the third. So why it's funny is that in January, I chose that tiger cat, and then I realized that the shape of the face looked exactly like that tiger cat. So it's like he was on his way to dying, and the new cat I was going to choose in January, it's kind of a latent wish or emerging. And I don't know, very interesting how that happened. Then I had wanted to ask Oona too, so it's so funny to be on this call and have this chance to ask her because I didn't expect to be able to, but I attended the session where you spoke about the geometry. And when you were speaking, I thought, okay, in the end, that tiger was not a bad thing. It was an extremely adorable, cute, and special thing. And it had big, pulsating, glowing red eyes. And then after hearing you talk about shapes and colors, I thought, okay, it's possible I wasn't supposed to be. It was not a negative thing. It was actually some kind of a positive thing. I just didn't understand the associations of what I was looking at. And I was curious if you could tell me, what is the red circle? Because I can't recall.
Yeah, so in light language, the Mayan light language, there's nothing good or bad. And it's not flat, so it's not a circle. We've been trained with looking at blackboards and looking at computers that the pictures we have, the images we have in our brain have become flat. So it's really important to think of it as three-dimensional, a sphere rather than a circle. And the red sphere stands for the physical realm, motion, activation, unlimited possibilities. So yes, my sense is it was a good thing, but it's for you to, of course, know.
It does seem to align, new life and
Yeah, unlimited possibilities is new life, isn't it? Could be anything.
Yeah. So that was my only little story for today. And another odd thing is I almost feel like about him, it's like I feel like I conjured up the perfect cat. I know everybody thinks their little pet is perfect, but he is oddly like per-on contact, no health problems. It's like he is the manifestation of the cat.
Yes, you remember me speaking about the color, probably. I'm assuming I did.
Yes.
Yeah, the cat. Wonderful.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thanks for sharing, Anna.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Elisa.
I think it was Matt first. If Matt, if you want to go ahead, you can.
Not on my screen, but
Yeah,
Oh.
no, I think you're before me, Elisa. Thank you so much, but you're ahead of me.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Oh my gosh, I've had like a few moments where I just want to cry because I feel this through the screen. I need to get through this without crying. It's just you feel like all this love of us coming together, the power, the connection, like it's moving, you know, and I feel it through the screen and I will not cry. I loved everything that everyone's had to say today. Stephen, if you're still on the call, you are such a good speaker. Like you really do, or I feel like you do, you reach people and it's beautiful. I just wanted to say to Pat too, I hope you're doing well and I send you all my love to you. And it's nice to meet you. It's funny too, because like you guys were talking about the when you fall asleep and like that moment, like right before you fall asleep, you like sometimes hear something. And it's so weird because not all the time, but sometimes like right before I fall asleep, I'll hear something. And it's so funny because I hear a word, yet I don't know what the word is. And sometimes it comes through so loud and I get up and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, okay, that was weird. So it's not all the time, but when it does happen, it's quite interesting. But I just hope everyone's doing well. And I'm just so happy that we're all here. And I knew it was going to come through. So, and I'm just so happy that we're all here because indeed together we are more powerful together. And I'm excited for the future. And that's all I have to say today.
Thank you, Alyssa. It's good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. And I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. And I will tell you, when you start hearing those things like that, it is very interesting, and it kind of catches you off guard at first, but over the years, I mean, you kind of get used to it. Yeah,
it's odd. It's odd. You're just like, wait a second.
Yeah, it's like, wait, what is that? Who is that? Where?
And it is.
Yeah,
it's right before you fall asleep. Like I've noticed that it's right as I'm like my eyes are closing and I'm getting into that sleep state, and my body will actually. This is weird. Sometimes my body will physically like jump. I bet this has happened to quite a few of you. Like my body will jump, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and it's annoying sometimes because you're like, what is this? But
yeah. But you know, over time, I've actually when people call out, like this morning, I mean, I knew that was Mary's voice. I mean, it's amazing. I've not always do I recognize the voice, but it's gotten to the point where often, like honestly, I was sitting in meditation one time, and my father-in-law had passed, right? And he'd passed years before this. And I was sitting there in meditation and I hear this voice that says, "Hey, Pat." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, hey, Mace, how are you?" I mean, it was clearly his voice. So sometimes you'll hear something and somebody will reach out and you'll know who it is. I mean, you'll know the voice. Sometimes I don't know them, but sometimes you will.
Most of mine, I have not recognized them. And sometimes I haven't even like been able to like hear the exact word. It's more of just like a sound or like, ooh, okay, this just came to me, like an echo effect. It almost sounds like, it's so funny. I'm just getting this right now. That's so funny. It's like sonar, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like it kind of like, or like a bell. It's like when you picture like those sonar waves, you know, and it's hard to explain.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's most of the time it's echoey, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
interesting.
Yeah. Thank you, Pat. I really appreciate it. And yes,
thank you, Melissa.
So much.
I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Matt?
Hi. So, real quick, just Josh, I think Josh is still on. Just something for you to consider, Josh. You were asking before which one is better. I think that both are fine. As you go to sleep, you pass through that hypnagogic state. If you talk about the different brainwave states, sometimes we use different language to describe similar things. But that's the hypnagogic state where we have our reasoning ability, but yet we're going to the place where we are fully asleep. So that it's that halfway state. We have two opportunities a day. Once when we're going to sleep and once when we're waking up. And you asked the question on this forum. Great question, but nobody else can answer it except you. You have to try both. You have to play with it. You have to see which one works. Try different techniques, something that Mary spoke about. There are other techniques as well, but you have to play with it and find out which one works for you. So that's my quick advice for your consideration, Josh. And if you choose to throw it in the garbage with a no consideration, that's okay too. Absolutely no problem. Laureen, are you still here? Yes, I see you. Let's get together offline and continue the conversation.
I would love that.
We need to go down the rabbit hole. I appreciate your comments. There's more I want to say to you, but not here, not now. We're on for 2 hours and 20 minutes. I'm done. Zach, you're up.
I love the rabbit hole. Happy to go down there with you because I'm sure you can teach me a lot.
Well, no, I'm sure you could teach me a lot.
We teach each other.
Good deal.
Looking forward to it.
Pat, can you get us together somehow?
I will. Absolutely. I will. You guys will get in touch with each other.
Okay. Thank you, Pat.
I will do it.
I think Josh might have missed what you said. Josh, did you hear what Matt just said?
I did not.
Oh. Oh my God. You want me to repeat that all the time I've taken?
I'm so sorry. I had to actually get the coffee.
Oh, Josh, I know what you did. You went to pee. You didn't get coffee. We're on here for a long time.
I'm not gonna lie.
Busted. Okay, listen. Here's what you missed. In the question that you asked previously, when you wanted to know which one is better, what I said, and I'll make this quick. We have two opportunities a day when we're going to sleep and when we're waking up, when we pass through that hypnagogic state. And it's up to you, Josh, to figure out which one works better for you. I don't know if you heard Mary's advice when she sets herself up for lucid dreaming. She pictures colors. Go back and listen to the tape. I don't want to repeat that. I have my own technique that I've been doing for a couple of years. That's very similar, Mary. Hi, Mary. How are you? Good to see you. But I picture, it happens to be a blue ball that's shimmering around the circumference. And as I picture it, it's almost like a picture of the sun. It's kind of shimmering. And then it shrinks down. And as it shrinks, the blue gets more and more vivid. It becomes like a deep blue. And then it cycles. It disappears. And then I start with the big circle, and it just goes like that. So there are different techniques that I suggest that you play with going to sleep and coming out of sleep. My most productive time is between 4 to 6 o'clock in the morning. Keep a recorder next to you, if it's a voice recorder or a notepad, old school or new school, because sometimes when people go back to sleep, they forget. So capture it when you can. And that's it. Zach, you're up.
Hi.
Hi, Zach.
Basically, I just wanted to show my face so people know who I am. I've been friending some people on Facebook and stuff like that, just so people don't freak out and think I'm a stranger or whatever. And I just moved here to Asheville, and I was struggling to find a place to go to do the CE5. And took your advice. I went on the Meetup app, and Mark Hagerling did say, you know, come out and join. And I think it's on May 7. So it'll be cool to finally get kind of acclimated and set into a group situation, because everything I've done previously was pretty much on my own or with my girlfriend, who currently is away, which is a good thing because she had an alcohol addiction thing. And anyways, it kind of disrupted the last 6 months of my life. Point being is, yeah, if anybody does want to come around to Asheville or speak, message, whatever, feel free. And I try to share as much knowledge as I can. I'm learning, so I'm trying to do more complex math and things like that. I'm not always going to be right, and I'm always looking for people to give me pointers, point out where I'm wrong. And I'm still like very early in the teaching stages and learning stages of everything, and new to meditation. Haven't made a contact where I've actually had like audio, but we have witnessed between me and my girlfriend, especially numerous things here in Asheville. We did one on Graveyard Fields, and my girlfriend was saying that she saw a blue orb above her. And I mean, we've had numerous things happen. Most of my activity was in Wisconsin, but that was about the only thing we've had here in Asheville so far. But I am looking forward to getting into these groups now. And if anybody's in the area, whatever, I'm going to check this thing out with Mark Hagerling. I mean, it looks like he's been doing this for quite a long time. Pat, you recommended him to me, and I think it's going to be amazing. So if anybody ever does want to come to Asheville, very spiritual, uplifted, friendly, nice, loving area, and it's beautiful. And I mean, I'm so glad I moved here. A friend of mine that lives in Virginia, he's told me about it, and I was like, we came out here on a motorcycle trip, and I fell in love with it, and now I'm here. So anyways, just letting my presence be known, showing my face, and don't be a stranger. And you know, I'm going to try to continue to do these meetings and be more involved now that I can. It took me forever to move. I'm still working on selling my house in Green Bay, got all kinds of things, but other than that, I mean, for the most part, I got a lot of free time. So just saying hi and letting everybody know, you know, don't be a stranger.
Great. Thanks, Zach. Yeah, I mean, that Asheville, I've spoken with Mark a couple times, and I may go over there for one of the CE5s that he's going to do, because I'm not very far. I think I'm a couple hours away. And I love road trips, as we all know. So I may go over there and do a CE5 with them over there at some point.
That'd be very cool.
It'll be fun.
Yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, well, Oona.
Okay. Yes, what do you
It's
think?
got to be, well, it's late where you are, Oona, because you are 7 hours different. So it's already almost 11 o'clock there.
That's right. Yes.
You're tired. So let's say that we will, what is this? This is the end of April, right? Let's say that maybe in the middle of May, maybe we can get together again. I know, Oona, you're going to be traveling, but we'll figure out something.
I'm always traveling.
Yes, you are always traveling. The most traveled human being I think I know.
After 4 years, I'm for the first time heading towards Europe again.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Fascinating. She's in Africa at the moment. So, yeah, so maybe in a couple of weeks we'll pick this up where we left off, and that'll be fun.
Whenever you're up for it, I suggest you sign up for the blog on c5europe.com to get any information that I have that I can put out. And yeah.
Great. Thank you, Oona. Thank you for hosting it. Hey, and thank you, Corinne. Thank you for being the co-host. Thank you.
And sorry, Mark, another one of our C5 traveling buddies. You just came in now and you missed 3 hours, but maybe next time.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Thank you.
We'll talk about our expedition to Korea next time.
Thank you, Oona.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Oona.
You're welcome. See you guys.
Everybody. Much
Look
love.
forward.
Thank
All right.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you all. Nice love and
See ya.
gratitude to you all.
Been a long time.
Great meeting.
Thank you.
Peace.